Once again, the square sun rose over the blocky hills of the overworld. Golden light spilled across the meadows, touching every tree, every stream, and every roof of the little village behind them. Steve stood at the edge of the dirt path, backpack ready, sword on his back. Beside him, Alex adjusted her compass, and little Endy clutched his flower pot with both hands. Behind them, villagers waved quietly. Ahead of them stretched a wide, shimmering road of adventure. Ready? Alex asked. Steve smiled. Endy nodded so hard his hood slipped over his eyes. And with that, they took their first steps away from home. The air was cool that morning. Dew sparkled on the grass like tiny diamonds. The world felt bigger with every step. The sound of birds, the rustle of leaves, the hum of the wind, all blending into a song of discovery. Endy laughed as he hopped between torches lining the trail, his little purple eyes glowing. By noon, they had crossed a wide river made of glittering water blocks. Steve showed Endy how to build a bridge, and Alex collected reeds for their camp. It was all new, all exciting, until the sun began to fall behind the mountains. Their first night in the wild was quiet. They built a small campfire by the riverbank, the flames crackling softly. Steve baked bread over the fire. Alex told stories about the whispering forests, places where the trees themselves could speak. Endy sat close, eyes wide, half curious, half scared. When the stars came out, the three of them lay back on the grass, watching them shimmer like glowing pixels scattered across a dark sky. The world was silent, except for the whisper of water and the soft crackle of fire. But somewhere in the distance, beyond the northern hills, a faint green light flickered. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The forest was calling. The next morning, they followed the sound of rustling leaves. The trees grew taller with each mile. The air changed, cooler, heavier, filled with the scent of moss and pine. Before long, the path turned to roots, and sunlight broke into thin beams through the canopy above. They had reached the northern forest. The forest felt alive. Every sound, every creak, every whisper seemed to carry meaning. The light danced on the ground, painting patterns of gold and green. Endy reached out to touch the glow drifting through the air.
The pulse rate is
Tiny
increasing.
pixel butterflies fluttered around him, leaving trails of sparkles behind. "It's beautiful," he whispered. Alex smiled, but Steve looked uneasy. The spiral mark on his arm began to faintly glow again, just like before. Deep inside the forest, they found an ancient clearing. Mossy stone blocks formed a circle in the ground. Carvings of roots and spirals covered every surface, the same pattern as the one on Steve's arm. The stones pulsed faintly, as though they were breathing. Steve stepped closer. His mark responded, glowing brighter. A faint hum echoed through the trees. Leaves began to shake. The air thickened with energy. "Steve," Alex whispered, "I think it's waking up." The ground trembled, roots burst from the soil, twisting and coiling around the clearing. Trees leaned inward, their branches forming a dome above. The sound grew louder, deep and ancient, like the voice of the earth itself. And then from the center of the clearing, a shape began to rise. It was huge, made of wood, stone, and green light. A towering figure with eyes like emerald suns. The forest keeper. It moved slowly, its limbs creaking like old trees in a storm. Leaves rustled across its chest as it turned its gaze toward the three travelers. Endy hid behind Alex. Steve stood frozen, his arm glowing fiercely. The keeper did not speak in words. Its voice came as a low rumble through the roots. A language of the forest itself. One of feelings, not sounds. The air vibrated with its presence. Steve stepped forward, hand trembling. He could feel the keeper's thoughts, not anger, but sorrow. It was guarding something, protecting it. The fragment of wood, a beam of green light shot up from the ground, illuminating the space between them. In the center hovered a glowing cube, swirling with vines and golden leaves. The same energy that once lifted the creation block in his village. Steve reached for it, but the forest reacted. Vines lashed out, curling around his legs and arms. Alex shouted, trying to pull him free, while Endy swung a stick at the roots in panic. The keeper roared, shaking the entire clearing. Steve's heart pounded. He could hear Elder Brian's voice in his memory. Creation is not about power, but understanding. Slowly, Steve stopped struggling. He placed his hand gently on the ground. The spiral mark glowed brighter, calm and warm. The vines loosened. The forest fell silent again. The keeper tilted its head. It reached forward, touching Steve's shoulder. A smile flickered, not human, but kind. Then from its chest, the green light lifted once more. The wood fragment floated towards Steve and merged into the spiral mark on his arm, glowing like a new heartbeat. The trees sighed, wind rustled through the canopy, and the keeper faded into shimmering light, returning to the earth. The forest was safe again. When the sun rose, Steve, Alex, and Andy sat by a small lake at the forest's edge. Ripples shimmered across the water, birds sang softly between the leaves. Alex smiled, leaning back on the grass. Andy played with a glowing leaf that drifted down, watching it sparkle before vanishing into the breeze. Steve looked north, where the mountains cut the sky. Somewhere out there, another light was waiting. "One down," he said softly, "4 to go." The wind carried his words into the forest, where they lingered like a promise. The promise of creation, courage, and the next great adventure.